Welcome to Beyond the Legal Pad with attorney Laura Cowan.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Legal Pad with attorney Laura Cowan. Laura helps individuals and families navigate estate planning with care, ensuring their wishes are honored and their loved ones are protected. She simplifies the process, helping clients make key decisions today to avoid pain and conflict in the future. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today's episode is Small But Mighty, Why a Well-Managed Practice Beats a $1 Million Dream. Laura, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I love the small but mighty, considering I'm 5'2".
That's perfect then. That worked out really good. Well, many lawyers are driven by the idea of building $1 million practice. What do you think is the appeal of this goal ultimately?
I think the appeal is always going to be money because those dollar signs, they just sell. It's just what people think. If you're going to start a law firm, everyone is going to be encouraging you. And when I say everyone, I mean society, coaches, other lawyers. The bigger, the better. The more money you make, the better. And this is how we're sort of pushed, in my opinion. Revenue is the carrot that is dangled. And I think it's a little bit misleading for a lot of different reasons. So number one, revenue is not profit. It doesn't matter if you make $1 million a year if you've got to spend $1,000,001 to get it. So
I'm no mathematician, but that doesn't sound good.
It doesn't sound good. And I say that kind of as a joke, but I've been on discovery calls with lawyers who are enrolling in the program who will tell me, I generated $700,000 of revenue last year, which is good. You sold $700,000 of legal services. That's not easy to do. But then they'll tell me, well, my overhead was $800,000. And, in that instance, you would have actually been better off staying at home for the whole year. As harsh as it sounds, you would have been better off doing nothing. So revenue is the carrot that is dangled, but it's such a misleading. It's just one slot out of the bigger picture. So, in 2 Hour Lifestyle Lawyer, we're really taking a different approach, which is you want to have a profitable practice. You want it to be streamlined, but there's more to building a law firm than just generating revenue. And what you might find is that if you start to generate enough revenue, but you don't have the systems and the processes in place to handle it, you're not going to be very happy and you're not going to be taking home very much either. So we're trying to come at this from a different angle.
Yeah, for sure. Profit's important. That's an important figure.
Profit's an important figure, and lawyers are not. Most of us are not business people, so you may not understand the difference between profit and revenue. And so these are some of the things that you have to learn as a law firm owner. But I think that money carrot really gets dangled. And what I would like to do is to start focusing on teaching lawyers how to be profitable, but also how to accept that, that the $1 million law firm may not actually be what you want, because it's going to come with a lot of bells and whistles that maybe are not even what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's actually good advice for anybody starting a business. Is like, you think about the revenue number is great, but it might not be the way to look at the goals and the plan for your business.
It's never the full picture. Mm-hmm. It's never the full picture. And one thing that I've noticed, I launched in 2016 and I've now been doing this almost 9 years now, both with a law firm that I'm running and my coaching business that I'm running. And one thing that I've noticed is that there's just been so many of these stories. I went from homeless to $1 million in less than a year. And now I'm going to, that may be true for some people, but it's really a lot harder than that.
It's a lot
harder than that. It's not the norm. And there's a lot that's not being told, because even with the success that I've had, I look at myself on paper and I see how I have been successful, but I know how hard it was. Yeah. And even when you've got the right tools and the right, teachings in front of you, implementing is hard. It's hard. So there's more to the picture than just revenue. That's my soapbox for today.
Soapbox away. You've built a practice focused on a balanced lifestyle rather than chasing the 7-figure business. How do you define success for a modern lawyer?
Well, this comes from the book that we just wrote, Lifestyle Lawyer Revolution, How to Live a Life You Love Without Leaving the Law. For me, success is defined as having the flexibility to do the work that you want on the terms that you want, while using your law degree in a way that helps the community. So I think flexibility and control are really, big post-COVID. There's so many lawyers out there that want to have something meaningful to do with their law degree, but we no longer fit into this, I'm going to work for big law, or I'm going to do, to work here, I'm going to work there. Lawyers want to have some say over what they're doing, and that means being a little bit entrepreneurial.
Yeah, being a little entrepreneurial is a really good way to say it, because like you said, most lawyers aren't business people too, so they don't they have to kind of shift their mindset to getting to that entrepreneurial spirit, if you will.
You really do. I mean, so many lawyers are solos or they're working at a small firm, which is basically being a small business owner, but we've got no training whatsoever in how to be a small business owner. So of course you have to know how to do the law and how to practice the law, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. And you're not going to be able to practice law effectively if the rest of your business isn't running smoothly. So it's definitely a skill set that lawyers need. And the good news is that it can be taught. It can be taught. We're teaching it in our course right now, how to build and scale an estate planning practice that's profitable and streamlined. So we're not piling on a whole bunch of systems and software that you don't really need.
Right. And you have a think smaller, well-managed practice approach. Why do you feel that that's more fulfilling and sustainable than trying to scale up to the big leagues, if you will?
Yeah, and just to be clear, we've got lawyers in the program who are scaling up to the big leagues. So that's possible, but I think that we're coming at it from a different approach, which is, number one, just getting started is hard enough as it is. You don't need to go from 0 to $1 million in 12 months. That's actually going to be completely chaotic and not good. Once you get the systems in place, dial in what you're doing for really, low expense. And then once you've dialed that in and you've got your profitability, then you can start to scale it up. But I think so often lawyers are just running after that. I need to get more business. I need to get more business. I need to get more business. And everything else around that is sort of chaos. So getting more business doesn't actually help.
Yeah, that's a good point. Getting more business can actually be a detriment to your business if you can't handle it.
If you can't handle it. And listen, I get it. I've got the same concerns as everyone. We all need to make a living, right? We all need to generate revenue. I get that piece of it. But what I found when I launched this in 2022, and I launched 2 Hour Lifestyle Lawyer in 2022, was that lawyers were calling me saying, I don't want $1 million law firm. I really don't. I want to be able to, if I could bring in $10,000, $15,000 a month consistently while having the flexibility to pick up my kids from school, I would be thrilled with that. And understandably so, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And to have that kind of money while also having flexibility is like the winning combination.
Absolutely.
So we do have people in the course who are like, I want to scale this up to $1 million. Great. Well, our membership helps with that. But you can't move too fast. And sometimes just getting those initial pieces in place and then looking around and seeing, okay, well, I'm making $10,000, $15,000 a month and my life is actually pretty much what I want it to be.
Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah.
Great.
In your experience, what are the biggest drawbacks of pursuing a high revenue practice that can impact a lawyer's personal life and well-being?
I think just not understanding that revenue isn't free, right? It's kind of like what they say about freedom. Freedom isn't free, right? You've really got to fight for it. And I think it's the same thing with revenue. There's always an opposite side to the revenue. You're either going to be spending a lot of money on marketing and systems to generate that revenue. You're going to be spending a lot of money on a staff and a team to help support you, right? The revenue comes, but it's going to come at a cost of either expense or time. And I think that's the missing piece that a lot of coaches and people who are selling programs similar to mine, they're kind of forgetting that. They're intentionally leaving that off to the side. Revenue isn't free. It comes at a price. And maybe you're willing to pay that price. Maybe you want to have a staff of 10 who's generating and doing all the things, then that's fine. But you're not going to have $1 million law firm without investing a significant amount of money and time into it.
Yeah, for sure. Got to spend money to make money, right?
It reminds me of that scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Remember that movie from ages ago where the dad is standing outside the restaurant and he's like, he says that to the guy in the cab. He's like, you've got to spend money to make money. It's absolutely true. You do have to spend money to make money. But just my advice for lawyers would be start small and dial in. You're hosting workshops and then converting people to a consult, because that in and of itself is super hard. And then dial in closing at the consult, and then dial in having your staff and your team support you. And once you're doing that and your profitability is high, well, then maybe you can think about, okay, can we do an extra 4 clients per month? What's that going to look like? And now can we do an extra 10 per month? But you don't start off with 10 per month.
Yeah. That's the whole idea of scaling, right? Yeah.
Yes.
How does your 2 Hour Lifestyle Lawyer program and the Estate Planning 101 course help lawyers create a practice that provides consistent revenue while still prioritizing family and personal time?
Yeah, so I love our 2-hour lifestyle lawyer course. I'm so excited about it. I'm so proud of it. We've had over 400 lawyers take it at this point. And really, this is just the A to Z blueprint for having an estate planning practice that makes at least 6 figures a year, which is about, what is that, $10,000 a month? It's not a huge amount. But basically we're teaching, the core of what we're teaching is what the lawyer should be doing versus what AI and your staff and your systems should be doing. The lawyer can't be doing everything, and they shouldn't be doing everything. Well, what should they be doing? They should be focusing on bringing in revenue. They should be focusing on doing the things that only someone with a law degree can do, like counseling clients, building relationships in the community, things like that. That's what the lawyer should be doing, because that generates revenue. The mistake that most lawyers make is that they're running around doing all those things that generate revenue, and then they go and they have to catch up with the work because they don't have any systems in place, and then they spend all this time on the work, and then before you know it, the next month they don't have any business, right? So it's just this vicious cycle. So I think a big part of it is just knowing, what do you focus on laser-like, and then what do you pass off to systems and automation? And you're not going to know that if you don't have a blueprint for what your practice should look like. And so that's what we're teaching, is the blueprint that I use in my own estate planning practice that's been very successful for me.
I feel like the lawyers in that industry, they have like a reputation. There's a reputation within it where, well, he's a lawyer, so obviously he works 60 to 80 hours a week. That's just sort of like something that I think we've all kind of just come to assume. You're obviously, your whole program is built on the fact that it is, you can grow your practice in a sustainable way that doesn't require that constant hustle or extreme growth. How do you see that as being achievable?
Yeah, so really what we're trying to teach in the course is that you don't have to work 60 or 80 hours a week to be a good lawyer. This is the hurdle that we're really trying to get over, because not only does society think that, if you're a lawyer, you're only a good lawyer if you're working 60 to 80 hours a week. That's just what we've been taught. That's what lawyers do. Well, what I want to do is start sending the message here that you're a lawyer. You can have a 5-star attorney, and just because he or she is working part-time doesn't mean they're not a 5-star attorney. It sounds so basic and simple, but this is a hurdle we've got to get over. So what we're teaching is, even if you only serve 2 or 3 clients a month, you can give 5-star service. You're not less of an attorney because you finish at 2:00 and go pick up the kids from school. You're not less of an attorney because you're relying on AI to do things that would otherwise take your staff 5 or 6 hours. You're not less of an attorney because you don't meet with clients on Mondays and Fridays. You don't have to be that vision that society has told you. And pre-2020, it was really hard to break out of that mold. Post-2020, I think it's easier, but there's still a lot of work to be done, because it's other lawyers pressuring each other is what I found. And sort of, the bragging rights, like, we've got a $3 million firm, or, I'm making this much money. There's a lot of bragging that kind of goes along, and bragging is fine and sharing is fine. But I think it's important to kind of share the whole picture. When I had that much revenue in my law firm, I was really, really busy and really, really stressed. $1 million law firm for an estate planning attorney is about $80,000 a month, which is about 20 to 25 clients a month. Now ask yourself, do I want to be serving 25 clients a month? I do not.
That's a lot.
That's your $1 million law firm, right? Yeah.
And to your point too, you were saying like, you can get 5-star service even if your attorney doesn't work 60, 80 hours a week. You probably get better service if your attorney doesn't work 60, 80 hours a week, because they're not exhausted or overextending themselves or possibly just running themselves into the ground.
Yeah. And this is where it makes sense for you as the lawyer to actually be charging what you're worth. If you're only going to be serving 3 or 4 clients a month, then you need to be able to find 3 or 4 clients that are going to pay you, what you're worth. So you find the people that respect your value and they understand your value, and then charge what you're worth. And then you don't need to go running around for 10 more clients, because you're charging an appropriate fee that they're happy to pay.
And in your program, you emphasize having time for hobbies, family, and life, kind of what we've talked about. But you have to reduce the focus on revenue, that word we've been talking about, revenue. How does reducing the focus on revenue help to create that healthier, more productive law practice? I
think it just forces you to think about the other parts of your practice that might be suffering, right? Because if all you're focusing is on revenue, you're not thinking about, well, systems, operations, expenses. You're not looking at the whole picture. And so again, and this is a problem that I've had, where you start to get really good at closing and bringing in a lot of revenue. And then before you know it, you've got all this revenue and none of the systems that you need to support it. And your life is really busy and chaotic. And then all of a sudden, you're not happy. So I would recommend, again, looking at those three pillars. It's not just about the attracting the leads, the closing the leads and getting the revenue. It's attracting the leads in a way that doesn't cost a lot, right? So you spend $10,000 on marketing to get $10,000 in business. Well, what's the point? Right? You need to learn how to attract people without spending a lot of money. And then you need to learn how to close, and focusing on pushing a lot of what happens after that out to systems, automation, VAs, et cetera.
So for any attorneys listening who might feel pressured to build a massive practice, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Yeah, the one piece of advice I would say is, just really step back and think, are you making that decision because you're afraid you're not going to be able to pay the bills? And I say this because I know how that feels. I really, really do. So I'm not minimizing the importance of I need to bring in business. The advice that I would give is just make sure that you really understand what that is going to look like, because you may just look at the revenue number and think, okay, that's what I want, but you could actually end up spending a lot of time and money investing in resources to support that $1 million in revenue and actually end up in a worse place than you were before. That would be the message I would try to get across, is that you could actually end up worse off even if you do generate a lot of revenue. One of the ways you could end up worse off is if you get a bunch of business, you can't do a good job supporting it. You're not going to be getting 5-star reviews.
Right. And we know how much people rely on reviews these days in all facets of life.
Right. You're right. Like, you have a business that's a little bit out of control, you're going to start getting some 1-star reviews. And then that's just, there's no point in doing that. Right. Mm-hmm. So focus on profitability. And then once you've dialed that in, then you can start throwing money at ads and then scale it up.
Yeah, great advice as always, Laura. Well, thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Legal Pad with attorney Laura Cowan. To connect with Laura, head to www.2hourlifestylelawyer.com, or you can email her at laura@2hourlifestylelawyer.com. And as always, I always like to remind people that 2 is the digit, not spelled out. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a review in the comments. Laura, so good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.